Hello students, welcome to the EPG Pathshala. I am Renu Arora from CSIR NISCARE, New Delhi. Today I am going to talk about the module Management Information Systems. This is from the paper Management of Libraries and Information Centers. The module discusses the role of management information systems, popularly referred to as MIS, in libraries and information organizations. As modern information organizations have become more technology oriented, the information managers are required to be up to date not only about various operations of the information organization but also in other related areas and technologies. The information managers become more efficient if they are not only well informed but also have more knowledge, experience, and analytical skills to be able to face various decision making situations. With this in view, the library and information managers too have recognized the requirement of management information systems, that is MIS, in information organizations. Information managers, with the help of MIS, can have access to timely, accurate, and latest information about various activities related to library operations. With this in view, the objectives of this module are: it describes the need, purpose, and role of MIS in an information organization. We can understand the characteristics of MIS. We will also get an insight into the MIS process, which has several stages or steps. Then we will try to explain the types of MIS and the problems solved by MIS. We will also see how MIS reports can be developed for the MIS managers or for the planners and decision makers of an organization. And lastly, we will explain the advantages and disadvantages of MIS. Levels of management. Before we actually know about management information systems, let's first take a look at levels of management. The three levels of management, namely the top, the middle, and the lower level, require information all the time for performing various activities. The MIS, therefore, must produce information for managers on all the three levels. For the top level, we require strategic decision making, that is, the top level requires strategic level managers, so they take long term decisions that will affect the future of an organization. The second level, that is the middle level, has tactical level managers. They require decisions that have a short to medium term effect. And lastly, the lowermost level consists of operational level managers. These levels are required to carry out day-to-day operations, so this necessitates managers to take day-to-day decisions. Before we go into what MIS is all about, what the process of MIS is, let's first understand what are the basic functions of a manager of an information organization. Or in fact, these are functions of any manager which have been identified by the various management experts. The five basic functions of any manager are planning, organizing, coordinating, decision making, and controlling. Let's know what the five functions of management are or managers are in detail. Planning. Planning is basically the direction an organization takes. For example, what to do in the future, how to diversify, which areas to be given priority, where to operate from, etc. Then, in case of organizing, we have to see how to organize the various resources of the organization. For example, how to organize the human resources, how to organize space, equipment, services, fund management, etc. Thirdly, the coordinating. In fact, unless and until all the people and activities of various organizations are coordinated, the objectives cannot be achieved. So in this particular case, the manager has to ensure that activities of various departments, divisions, people, etc. are completely coordinated. Then in case of decision making, decision has to be taken about the overall organization by the top management. In fact, here the manager has to take decision about the products and services which are to be prepared in the organization or which are to be sold to the users, decisions about the employees of the organization, that is about them and by them, etc. Then the use of various available equipment and information technologies in the information organization. And the last function, that is controlling. Controlling refers to monitoring and supervising the activities of others. In fact, main activity of every manager has to be the controlling activity. So we see that the role of the MIS is therefore to provide a manager with sufficient information to make informed decisions to help him or her to carry out the 5 major functions of every organization, which are planning, organizing, coordinating, decision making, and controlling. The MIS must produce information for managers on various levels. The kind of information that is required to be produced for managers at various levels includes strategic information. That is, strategic is required for long-term decisions. Long-term decisions are required by managers which are at the top level, and these kinds of decisions affect the future course of action of the organization. In the next level, that is the middle level, normally these are having managers who are at the medium level. So these decisions usually have a short to medium term effect. So tactical planning or tactical decision making is required by this particular level. And the last level, that is the lowermost level, is involved in carrying out day-to-day operations. So this level requires only the kind of information that can help them to take decisions on day-to-day basis. So therefore, these managers can only take day-to-day decisions, so they require information which can provide immediate solution to a particular problem. Definition of MIS. MIS can be defined as a normal system to provide all levels of management with the relevant information required by the managers with which to make appropriate decisions for the total control of an organization. So, the managers can be at the top, middle, or the lower level, and depending on their level, as we have already discussed, the kind of decision is to be taken. And therefore, MIS must ensure that depending on the level of the management, the kind of information is made available. It is therefore considered to be one of the best monitoring techniques in the management of any information organization, because all the key members are provided with manual and automated data and information used in its various operations. In fact, when we talk about MIS, it has to be remembered that the kind of information which is given to MIS managers varies in size and quantity as well. Higher the level of a manager requiring information from MIS, lesser will be the quantity of information provided. And because this is due to the reason that the staff of MIS who prepare the information for a particular level of management puts in effort into information preparation according to the level of the manager. We have already defined MIS, but there are many management experts who have given varied definitions of MIS. After considering the various definitions, the best definition that can be arrived at is that an MIS is the role of a management information system is to convert data from internal and external sources into information that can be used to aid in making effective decisions for planning, directing, and controlling the activities of an organization. This definition implies that an MIS in an information organization can be applied to all the three levels of management. The MIS is capable of being linked to any organizational subsystem. The functions which are enabled due to MIS can help to measure performance. MIS monitors progress in an organization. MIS evaluates alternatives or provides knowledge for change, and lastly, MIS is flexible both internally and externally. Let's understand the meaning of MIS. MIS means Management Information System. This is a term which is made up of three words, that is management, information, and system. So here we will see that each term has a role to play. Management refers to the overall organization. The information is basically the information available for the managers, and system is about the organization which is composed of the various resources. So when all the three come together, management, information, and systems, we have the term management information system. So we have seen that MIS is a planned system of collecting, storing, and disseminating data in the form of information, which is needed to carry out the functions of management. The term is popularly used to refer to the group of information management activities which are linked with computerized and automated activities or support for human decision making. For example, the decision support systems in organizations are one of the best examples of MIS. We also have the expert systems and the executive information systems. So MIS, or Management Information Systems, therefore involves three aspects, which are management, information, and systems. In fact, it has to be understood here by all the library science students that management information systems is different from management of information systems or information system management, because in this particular case the MIS, or the management information systems, this refers to the information or the information system which is developed for the management personnel in order to make better decision, in order to take better decision making in the information organization. On the other hand, when we say management of information system, it is managing the various activities of the information system. MIS means management, information, and systems. In fact, management takes decisions regarding planning, operating, and controlling. Management is basically the art of getting things done through people, with people, and all the people have to be in formally organized groups. The basic functions performed by a manager in an organization are planning, controlling, staffing, organizing, and directing. Management thus takes decisions regarding planning, operating, and controlling. Secondly, information. Information consists of orderly data used for making decisions. Information is considered as valuable component of an organization. Information is data that is processed and is presented in a form which assists decision makers and consists of orderly data for making decisions. And lastly, systems. Systems are for integration of all activities of an organization through exchange of information. A system is defined as a set of elements which are joined together to achieve a common objective. The elements are interrelated and interdependent. Thus, every system is said to be composed of subsystems. A system has one or more subsystems. In other words, a system is for integration of all activities of an organization through exchange of information. So, As we have seen, MIS means management, information and systems, all the three taken together. Let's take a look at need for MIS. Management information systems improve the effectiveness of decision making in organizations. This is by providing decision makers with information related to the decision for which they are responsible. Appropriate information is made available for appropriate persons at different levels for taking decisions of different kinds. MIS improves the effectiveness of decision making by providing decision makers with appropriate information. Depending on their level, it can be top, middle, or lower level of management. Some of the reasons why we require MIS is the technological developments and information overload. The technical developments and the technology applications in various areas has necessitated in need for MIS because information is provided at a faster pace, and also whatever is going on in an organization is all easily available at one place. So therefore, MIS is very essential. Besides this, the very fact that these days everyone is suffering from information overload, which refers to having too much information on a topic or an area. So MIS will filter out the unnecessary information and provide the planner, policymaker and decision maker only with information that is really essential for carrying out activities. Sources of information for MIS. The two major sources of information for MIS are internal information and external information. Internal information is generated by the organization. Examples are inventory levels, cash flow, customers or users, orders, personnel, sales, etc. These are entered into the system by keyboard operators or through the use of scanners. So all kinds and categories of internal information which is generated by an organization is the chief source of information for MIS. And in addition to that, the other source, that is the external information, it is information about market trends, the economy, competitors, mailing list of potential customers available from news sources, organizations' publications, industry magazines, and increasingly through the World Wide Web. This information is not stored permanently in an organization's MIS and is available from outside sources. So for this, proper linkages with other organizations or other sources is required. And this is considered to be quite expensive for any organization. Features of an MIS. Let's take a look at some of the features of any typical management information system. Firstly, it should be flexible, which means that it should be allowing for different ways of analyzing data and evaluating information. Secondly, it should be able to support a wide range of skills and knowledge. This is to ensure that all levels of management get appropriate information as and when required. Thirdly, it should provide interpersonal communication with other people in the organization. Fourthly, not require extensive periods of concentration as managers switch between different tasks. So it has to be seen that as and when a particular manager is working on a particular activity or a project or in a particular division, then only appropriate information related to that task or activity has to be provided. It makes it easy to interpret the work and return it to at a later time. So whenever any information is required and some work is going on, it can be interrupted, information acquired and then returned to it at a later time. And lastly, protects a manager from information overload. Information overload, as already informed, is one of the major problems in the modern times, and therefore a manager can always skim and get whatever he or she requires from the information data bank, etc. And therefore complete protection from information overload can be ensured. Structure of MIS. The structure of MIS involves levels of management which lead to managerial decision making, and in managerial decision making we have the MIS software and hardware through which the managers can contact the MIS database, and MIS database acquires information from external information systems or databases, and therefore information is provided to different levels of management. So the MIS process involves steps which consists of information gathered from various sources. Processing inputs to an MIS are internal data sources and external data sources. The internal data sources include the in-house databases, data warehouses, and specific functional areas throughout information organization. The external data sources are, on the other hand, related information organizations, user community of the information organization, competitors, and the internet. It has to be reiterated here that although a computer is not a prerequisite to MIS, the modern MIS are completely based and dependent on computer technologies. Decision making and stages of MIS. For decision making, the MIS helps the manager to go through some of the stages. These are: recognize the problem. The MIS may give information about the performance of the department. There is a problem. Secondly, consider the solution. A spreadsheet could be used to consider what kind of solution is existing. Thirdly, select the solution. The solution is selected by the manager using the manager's experience as well as the information produced by the MIS. And lastly, implementation of the solution. Here the solution is implemented and reviewed. Again, the MIS can provide the data on which the solution is evaluated. The MIS implementation process involves a number of essential steps. In the first step, as already informed, establish information needs of management. For example, for general management of information organization or financial management or human resource management. Within these decision areas, there will be factors relevant to the management decision areas. For example, general management will be concerned about its relationship with the governing board or parent body. Information organization, user relationship, and information to be provided to the staff. This will then lead the design team to ask what information units will be needed to monitor the identified factors of concern. Information managers requiring information for decision making will then be identified. Then formulate broad system objectives so as to delineate important decision areas in view of the identified information needs of managers at various levels. For this, a network diagram can be drawn which shows information flow. The new MIS, when it is ready for operation, has to be tested until it meets the operational requirements, considering the specifications stipulated for performance and the specified organizational constraints. All the critical details are to be rechecked and data pertaining to various divisions of the information organization and the organization and as a whole are fully selected, collected, and processed. It has to be ensured that information is generated in a timely manner. And lastly, monitor and maintain actual implementation of the MIS and its functioning from time to time. After having known about what MIS is all about, let's try to see what are the kinds of problems which can be solved in information organizations by MIS. Firstly, structured problems. Structured problems are those problems which can be clearly defined. We can immediately know what the problem is all about because we have procedures for solving these problems, and also information which is required for solution of these problems is easy to identify. Also, the structured problems are those which can easily be solved using information and tools which are available in an information system. And kinds of problems solved by information workers and supervisor are also structured problems because these can be handled by a medium level or the lower level of organization. Then secondly, semi-structured problems. Semi-structured problems are basically less of routine than structured problems, whereas structured problems were the very simple, clear problems which could be solved by any level of management, including the lower level of management. But then the semi-structural problems are basically not of routine nature. And procedure for solving such problems usually involve some subjective judgment, and some of the information which is needed may not be available. So in this particular case, we may need to apply to slightly higher level for decision making or for problem solving. Thirdly, the unstructured problems. Unstructured problems are basically those problems which require human intuition as the basis for decision making. Here the relevant information may be missing, and information systems, they provide lesser degrees of help as we move from structured to unstructured problems. In case of unstructured problems, usually the lower level or even the medium level of the organization usually cannot solve these problems, and we have to apply to the highest level of management or the top level of management for appropriate decision making. Many times for relevant information, we may have to apply to other places. We have to see the other organizations, how the problems are being solved by them. So these are rather complicated in nature, and we can see that the information systems provide lesser degrees of help as we move from structured to unstructured problems. So usually the structured problems are the best to be handled within the organization, but unstructured problems are handled only by the top level because they have to use their intuition or they have to use the past examples in order to take decisions. Presentation of information. Whatever has been prepared by the MIS has to be given a suitable shape for presentation to the appropriate level of management. The information collected from MIS can be presented in several ways. Firstly, in the form of reports. Reports can be detailed in the form of a summary, or these could be progress reports. Secondly, interpretations, narrations for decision making. The interpretations and narrations which are prepared for decision making depend on the level to which the information is provided. As already said, higher the level of management, lesser will be the amount of information presented for decision making. Thirdly, documents that are quantitative or subjective. Fourthly, briefing documents. Briefing documents are usually required by top level management, including planners, policymakers, and decision makers. Usually, this level of management doesn't have any time to go through several documents. So, experts or many times some other top level managers, they go through several documents and prepare a brief for this level of management. So these are referred to as briefing documents. Fifthly, consolidated information. MIS makes sure that many times consolidated information may be provided to the MIS users so that information overload is avoided. And lastly, The information can be presented just in the form of some statistics or statements, some trends or graphs or tables, etc. Costs associated with MIS. Four major heads under which costs of MIS can be seen are hardware, software, personnel, and maintenance. Hardware is actually the computer systems, etc., and which require regular updation. So, a lot of costs are incurred on regularly updating the machinery, equipment, computer systems, etc. Secondly, software. In fact, software these days is very sophisticated and much more costly, many times 4 or 6 times the cost of hardware. Thirdly, personnel. The personnel which are employed to work on MIS are of different categories. Because a variety of personnel are required to carry out operations of MIS, personnel costs in MIS are also very high. And lastly, maintenance. All the hardware and software and the other equipment for operating the MIS requires error-free maintenance. And having such kind of maintenance is again a very costly affair. Besides this, the major other costs associated with MIS are one-time costs and recurring costs. One-time costs are for installation of hardware, software, communication infrastructure, and miscellaneous costs, whereas the recurring costs are towards annual maintenance charges, charges payable to service providers, cost of manpower, outsourcing of services, etc. After knowing about various aspects of MIS, let's now see what are the advantages of MIS. Firstly, high level of use. MIS ensures that all the available information in the organization leads to high usage by all levels of management. And any organization where the various levels of management use more of information for decision making, it's better decision making process. Secondly, updating of information is a continuous process because monitoring is easy and immediate corrective measures can be taken. Thirdly, high level of user satisfaction is seen as decision making becomes more accurate, less risky, and rather easy. Fourthly, accomplishment of original objectives. This is a major advantage of MIS because every organization has to ensure that its objectives are achieved or accomplished, and MIS leads to having accomplishment of original objectives framed for any organization. Fifthly, appropriate nature of use, because whatever the available information is, it can be used appropriately. Because depending on the level of the manager in the organization, the amount of information is provided. In fact, as we have seen in the case of MIS reports, higher the level of management, lesser the quantity of information made available to the particular manager. Then next advantage is institutionalization of the system, because all the levels of the management are making use of the available information. The whole process becomes very systematic and therefore it's completely based on the appropriate information system that enables better decision making. And lastly, trend analysis and forecasting becomes possible, and it's found to be having high possibility, because the very reason is that when we have all the information available on which we can make future forecasts, or we can analyze the trend, and based on the available trend we can forecast for the future. So the future decision making also is becoming easier, or we can say more effective. So again, this is a very major advantage of MIS. We have already learnt about the advantages of MIS. Let's take a look at some of the pitfalls or constraints of MIS. Firstly, inadequate analysis. the problems, needs, and constraints are not understood in the early stages. So, therefore, it's a very big drawback of MIS. Secondly, lack of management involved in the design. Many times there are wrong expectations of a new system and or no one understands the system. So this leads to failure of the system. Thirdly, there is too much emphasis on the computer system. So there is need for procedures for handling input and output. And also we should select the right hardware and software so that all the work is carried out in smooth manner. And fourthly, there is concentration on low-level data processing. It is a belief that information must be easily accessible and understood. And if it is so, then only the whole system can work in an error-free manner. Many a times, MIS is found to be a failure. The common factors which are responsible for this are: firstly, MIS is conceived for data processing and not for information processing. It does not provide information which is needed by the information managers for routine activities, but it tends to provide information for functions that involve decision making. So MIS becomes an interpersonal system. Then we underestimate the complexity in the information system and do not recognize that the MIS design may lead to problems in the successful implementation. Thirdly, adequate attention is not given to the quality control aspects of the inputs, the processes and the outputs, leading to insufficient checks and controls in MIS. Fourthly, MIS is developed without streamlining the transaction processing system in the organization. A major problem arises due to lack of training and application that the users of the information and the generators of the data are different, and they have to play an important responsible role in the MIS. The MIS does not mean certain critical and key factors of its users, such as a response to the query on the database, an inability to get the processing done in a particular manner, lack of user-friendly system, and the dependence on the system personnel. A belief that the computerized MIS can solve all the management problems of planning and control of information organization is one of the chief drawbacks of MIS. Besides this, MIS are very expensive, and another major drawback is lack of teamwork. An ICT manager must coordinate with the accounts, marketing, sales teams, etc. to help everyone understand the benefits of the system. Lack of management knowledge of ICT systems and capabilities. Managers know what they want from the system, but don't understand the technologies. This leads to being a big drawback in the MIS. Then lack of professional standards. All the systems need clear documentation that all users can understand, not just the people who are information technology literate can understand. This again leads to a problem because unless and until the users of MIS know about the technical jargon, know about the use of computers, etc., it becomes difficult for them to know what MIS is all about. Besides this, lack of administrative discipline and not knowing about standardized systems and procedures, wrong planned approach, and deviating from the system specifications results in incomplete and incorrect information. The MIS does not give perfect information to all users in the organization. Any attempt towards such a goal is unsuccessful because every user has a human capability, bias, certain assumptions of not known to the designer. The MIS cannot take all these aspects into account while providing and striving to provide perfect information. This is because many times there is inadequate analysis regarding problems, needs, and constraints at an early stage. And if management personnel are not involved in the design, wrong expectations of a new system can also lead to problems and pitfalls. We already know the skills of information managers or managers of any organization. Let's now take a look at some of the skills of MIS managers. MIS managers have knowledge of the total organization and its objectives. This is due to the fact that all the information system, all the available information about the organization is available with the MIS. Besides this, the MIS managers have ability to communicate effectively, whether it is orally or in writing. Then relationship with top management as well as the lower management are much improved. The very fact that the best MIS manager is that who works at a level which is below the top management and which is above the lower management, so that being a link between the top and the lower management, the MIS manager can coordinate with both the levels of management. Besides this, MIS manager has knowledge of information processing and data communication skills, whereas the ordinary manager in any organization usually does not get involved in information processing and data communication techniques. Besides this, the MIS manager has the ability to design and judge the design of the overall system. So, with these improved skills of MIS managers, the MIS can work better, effectively, and efficiently. Types of MIS. Over the years, MIS have been refined and many types of MIS are visible in various organizations. In fact, there are 6 major types of information systems that are seen in an organization. Firstly, executive support systems. Secondly, management support systems. Thirdly, decision support systems. Fourthly, knowledge works systems. Fifthly, office automation systems. And sixthly, transaction processing systems. These 6 types of management information systems serve the different levels of functionality in an organization. We have already seen the different types of MIS. Let's explain a little bit about the decision support systems. These are popularly referred to as DSS. A decision support system or DSS is an umbrella term used to describe any computer application that enhances the user's ability to make decisions. More specifically, the term is usually used to describe a computer-based management information system designed to help decision makers use data, knowledge, and communications technology to identify problems and take decisions to solve these problems. After having learnt about various aspects related to MIS, let's now conclude. In this module, we have discussed role of MIS in modern information organizations. We have seen the levels of management and functions of management. Levels of management are basically top, middle, and lower level, and functions of management are planning, coordinating, decision making, etc. Then we have seen the meaning, role, need, functions, objectives, and characteristics of MIS. We have also tried to see how MIS development process is carried out. This process has several stages. Then we have seen the advantages and drawbacks of MIS. We have also learnt about the kinds of problems solved by MIS in information organizations. And lastly, we have also learnt the types of MIS practiced by information organizations, of which decision support system is an example. All the other details regarding the MIS are given along with the diagrams in your e-material, and you will also find references, web references, etc. Thank you.